Hundreds of Jap planes are knocked down by anti-aircraft fire. At least 18 Japanese ships are put out of action by American Army, Navy, and Marine flyers.
It would be another 3 years before the POWs who'd survived Hellfire Pass would appreciate this event. They were finally informed of Japan's surrender on the 16th of August, 1945. Many were cared for in Thai hospitals before heading home. In the streets of the capital, Bangkok, Allied soldiers and their supporters celebrated. But the scars would take a generation to heal. After the war, the railway fell into disuse, and gradually the jungle reclaimed the line. "40 years after the war, Bill Haskell returned to Kanchanaburi with former POW camp leader, renowned Australian surgeon Sir Edward Weary Dunlop, friend Keith Flanagan, and wartime artist Jack Chalker. While searching for their old river camp, they made a new friend.
We're coming up the stream of these long-tail boats, and there was a chap in a houseboat type thing on the riverbank. And as we came up around the bend, he said, "Would you like a beer?" And on our boat we had a reporter from the West Australian newspaper named Hugh Smith, who'd covered the America's Cup, and he was a very forthright sort of a fellow. So he said to him, "How much?" The reply was, "Nothing, free." So Hugh said, "Is it cold?" He said, "Yes, it's very cold." So Smitty said, "Well, what about?" "Oh, we'll go and give it a try." So we pulled into this little boat landing, and lo and behold, it was Kuhn Knight.
Ganit Wanachot remembers that day well.
They understand my heart, you know, because I saw them all old people and look very good. So they came up at that day. We drank beer together until dark, and then became friends.
Ganit stayed and made the stunning bend of the river his home. Under the shelter of misty mountains, Ganit, now 80, has, along with his family, created the idyllic jungle resort of Home Patoi. After meeting the World War II veterans, Ganit maintained a friendship with Weary Dunlop and his fellow soldiers. He began collecting memorabilia, including an old train, and created a museum in honor of all those who battled and died nearby. Within Ganit's museum, you can also study the wartime drawings of Jack Chalker, images that truly capture the horror of the camps. Ganit became such a close friend of POW veteran Weary Dunlop that when Weary died, Ganit helped spread his ashes on the River Kwai and built a lifelike statue to salute his hero.
He is my present day hero. So because he was very brave, he was very, he cared for the other, and he thought of the other trouble. He didn't want anything back, and very brave and very sacrifice himself for all the prisoner of war. Yes, and all the prisoner of war loved him very much. And from them, I knew about the dead railway. So when he died, I made up my mind to have Weary Dunlop Park in memory of him.
He then dedicated a park at his resort, Home Patoi, to the former soldier he greatly admired. Here, many veterans come to place a flower before a life-size wooden carving of the man himself.
Incidentally, when you put a flower in front of it and ask for a wish, you get it in 3 days.
It comes true in 3 days.
It does indeed. It does indeed.
What would Weary have thought of all this?
He would have thought it great fun, you know. And he would have been very amused to see those flowers picked up and put in front of him. Because Sir Ninian Stephen said in his eulogy that he was a saintly man. Who would have been surprised to have heard himself described as a saintly man, you know, and to see himself treated as a saint, you know, that twinkle in his eye would have gone.
In the mid-80s, the idea had already begun to take shape that if a memorial was to be erected to those Australians who died on the Burma-Thailand Railway, there was no more appropriate place for such a monument than Hellfire Pass. Led by Ken Bradley, the Australian Thai Chamber of Commerce coordinated arrangements for the design, construction and maintenance of the memorial. A Thai team conducted a detailed survey of the proposed route of the access pathways in October 1986, from which site plans were produced and approved later that year. Actual construction of the pathways commenced in early January 1987 and was completed in mid-March 1987. Much later, in accordance with his last wishes, some of Sir Edward Weary Dunlop's ashes were interred in Hellfire Pass on Anzac Day 1994. The impetus to further develop this area continued. After additional funding from the Australian government, other sections of the former railway line were gradually cleared to make a walking trail. Stairs were constructed down to the pass, and in 1997, construction began on the Memorial Museum itself. More and more people come to visit this site every year, and sadly, fewer veterans remain to make the pilgrimage. Keith Flanagan, OAM, the instigator and driver of the telling of Weary Dunlop's Quiet Lion story, died peacefully of cancer on Saturday the 1st of March 2008. His ashes too were floated along the river from the shores of the Home Patoy Resort, just a few kilometres from Hellfire Pass. Perhaps it's here that he is best able to rest.
Keith, he put it very well, and it's the first time I understood actually is just in the days before he died, because although he talked a lot about Weary, he didn't actually volunteer a lot of his own experience. He would put it through, you know, the words of other people and the quotes of other people. Before he died, I read an excerpt from something he had written, and he had been brought into a hospital tent with malaria and dysentery, and they were in the jungle. There was nothing at all. There's no resources, and another guy had an ulcer burst in his stomach, and they were all, you know, rigid with fear. And out of, you know, immediately they cut through the jungle, they set up an operating theatre, they operated on this guy, and they saved his life. And in Keith's words, things would get bad and would get much worse, but never as bad as the night before that operation.
There is no greater love than this, that someone should lay down his life for their friends. Their bodies are buried in peace, but their names live forever.
Anzac Day, the dawn service at Hellfire Pass. Australian veterans, their families and other people from around the world gather to remember.
A hope for years to come. Be thou our God while troubles last, and our eternal
Mitchell. Fall out.
I've never seen anything as beautiful as this before, so yeah, it's great.
When you think all of these people turn up,
Were you surprised how many people come here?
Absolutely, no. It's certainly bring back memories. I used about 4 or 5 tissues, unfortunately, but it just happens. Yeah. But it is, you know, I'd heard quite a bit about it on their trips back here. I'm glad I came for this one.
You look around and you realise you're not with a few people anymore at these visits, but a lot of people. This morning was most impressive. There was a lot of people, and they were all of various ages, which is encouraging to see the young ones interested in that place.
Later, at 11 a.m, the service moves to the Kanchanaburi War Cemetery, where representatives of the Allied forces and Thailand pay tribute to the fallen.
Of their fate, for the courage, devotion to duty, and self-sacrifice, giving us continual hope that out of death representing Commander-in-Chief.
The ranks of veterans has grown smaller year by year, but their message soldiers on. Younger servicemen and women now lead the charge. The diggers are their inspiration.
The message that needs to be passed on, I think it is getting through, is that this isn't a glorification, it's just basically a remembrance. You know, we're here to basically pay honour to what these guys have done for us. You know, and it's a big thing that they've done.
There's more young people attending Anzac Day services, and I think as time's going on, they're understanding what Anzac Day is all about.
But to truly begin to understand the hardships endured, you have to walk the trail along the railway itself, feel the humidity, battle the mosquitoes, and climb through the cuttings in the heat of the day, and let those who've been there through the worst of it lead the way.
I was just amazed that any of them actually survived. You know, we've done tough training, but we've never done anything as hard as they've ever done. And to see them back again, you know, 57 years later, is, you know, once again, as I said, inspiration, and probably why I get out and stand in the sun for 2 hours for them.
Morning at Hellfire Memorial Museum. The day begins with a briefing of the veterans, their families, and the visitors who've arrived to walk the railway trail and visit the pass. The group sets out slowly along the cleared trail, past the remains of old bridges and craters left by British bombers, which destroyed some of the line and part of the bridge over the River Kwai in June 1945. Everyone is here for a different reason. Malada Matic has returned to pay respect to a husband who once worked here as a POW. Barney McKinnon is here to say goodbye to a father who never came home. Others just want to explore and learn. Every year, Bill Haskell walks the trail and recounts the story of its construction. He tells of the sustained bravery for which no awards were given, of an abiding legacy of discipline and looking out for your mates. At the age of 80, he returned with his son and grandson, along with other family members, here to listen to Bill's story for the first time.
Heard about it, but I'd never actually seen anything like. I've seen pictures and that, but never seen it in real life until now. And it's just absolutely amazing what they've done. Real eye-opener, like unbelievable what he went through. I don't think I could have done what he's done, but it's just amazing.
I did ask the odd question. Dad would answer it, fairly abrupt at times. But back in his first trip after the war, back in 1985. Every year after that he's been back. I think by coming back and seeing it and discussing it and talking it with different people has encouraged him and healed some of the wounds, so to speak. I mean, on this tour today, I think, you know, there's 60 or 70 people here. I mean, everyone can appreciate with the way Dad's put it across how it is, how it's happened, and you get involvement in it and you got feeling with it. And I think this has helped Dad to cure what he's been through and all the other POWs that are on the trip as well.
Yes, it's been a bit of a lift, and no doubt about that. It's nice to bring your own people along here. I'm no stranger to this walk. I've done it many times. I first did it in 1987. In those days, it wasn't cleared. It was the jungle had just taken over, and I think there's only about 4 of us made it from Hellfire Pass to here.
So that must have been a tough walk.
It was a tough walk in Century Heat, but there again, I was quite a bit younger than I am now, and of course, the older you get, the more steps they put on.
More scratches you get.
Yeah, more scratches, and yeah. But in any case, it's always nice to bring people along and just explain to them what did obtain as far as the railway is concerned, because it's possible to walk along here and you just would not be aware of. I come along and I link it with privations, I link it with incidents, and I link it with places. I mean, each section coming along, sections that at various times we worked on, and so you're closely related to it. The reason I come back, I think it's history. And I think in Australia today we're very, very light on history. We get all sorts of things put on television, and young people, they never get the opportunity to see things just how they were.
Some veterans say this journey has helped them to reconcile with the past.
You know, I've been to Singapore and on the cruises at Bali, and you meet all the young Japs on honeymoons and the young ones and that. And I don't have any problem at all.
Yep.
But sometimes I lie awake and think, you know, it might have been their father or grandfather up there. They can't do anything about it. The other thing, of course, that the young ones you can't expect to know too much, because it was years and years and years after before anything went in their school books or history books about what happened up here. It's bloody years and years after.
I've paid my homage, and in a very comforting and rewarding feeling, I leave the pass.
Since meeting Cunnitt on the river more than 20 years ago, Bill Haskell has returned from Australia every year on Anzac and Remembrance Days to visit his oldest Thai friend and to pay his respects to his former camp leader. On this day, he's almost 90. Once again, he makes his way to the pass, where so many of his comrades died. The sun has set on those hellfire days, but the memory will never fade.
At my age, you're very fortunate if you've got something you can do that is a benefit to people. Most people, when they get old, are very self-centred and they're too busy looking after themselves to worry about the outside world. And this to me has been a godsend in a way. It does give me the opportunity to meet people and to feel as though you're still doing something worthwhile.
Veterans now look to the younger generation. Their children, their grandchildren and other young people have been entrusted with the torch that will light the way through Hellfire Pass and guide future footsteps to a better world. A single spark can ignite a mighty flame. The legacy of Hellfire will continue to burn brightly for generations to come.
We're following a well-worn path, I suppose. But time is marching on, and physically it gets. Bill Haskell's all right because he goes swimming every morning at 4:30 in the morning.